turn it on now. Hold this. Gotta hurry and run late for my meeting.
Like this?
Yeah, you're just not going to be here, or what? Are you going to talk?
No, that's right. Go ahead.
All right.
I don't know what the fuck I would even say to
I don't either.
go the other way. You're just gonna be rubbing all over us.
Waiting for the host to come on. Hello.
Just want people to see if you're on mute.
Join audio.
Call over internet. Hello.
Yeah, girl.
Hello.
So where are you, Emily? Are you in town?
I am in town. I am in my office, and I have a very special person with
Start
me.
video.
I can turn the camera
Oh,
on. There he is. Charles is here, and he
Hi.
just brought me
I can't see you.
dinner.
I should do that.
So I'm going to be chewing in the background. I apologize. I can turn my video off, or you can watch me eat lamb chops.
Oh my goodness.
Yum.
Goodness. Welcome everybody. As I was just putting in the chat, please get yourself a piece of paper and a pen so you can play our trivia game tonight.
Yes. Hello.
Hello.
Can y'all see me?
We see you.
I'm
We
a-
hear you.
I'm on my phone, so it's kind of hard to. I can only see you speaking, and then I see myself in the corner. I'm not familiar with. I'm not familiar with the internet at all.
Oh, David, you can swipe left or right. I forget which it is, and you can probably get a choice of seeing the whole group or just one person.
Okay.
Try that.
Oh yeah,
There. Hi, Anna.
you're correct.
Did you do it?
I did.
See, we learn something every time we come to a mom's meeting.
Well, I'm not a mom. I am a father though. But there's no groups I can find for fathers.
Oh, we'll take you. We're mothers and others, David. Where are you from?
Cincinnati, Forest Park. My wife's a mom. My wife's a mom, obviously. She's a stepmom.
Yeah. Good. So I'm putting out this is the first time I've done this, is we're putting out a poll. Can everyone see it?
Mm-hmm.
This is a question like what brought you to tonight's meeting. It's a one question poll. We're trying to get an idea what works best, the way we communicate to you about our meetings.
I thought I messed up, so I clicked other and just hit submit. I thought I did something wrong. I'm sorry.
Can't do anything wrong at a Mom's Demand Action meeting. We're very informal. 7:03, we'll start at 7:05. We have several people registered, and some people have trouble getting on.
Julie Womack just texted and said she didn't have the link.
Hear that, Dana?
No,
I didn't have a link, and I know
Can you hear me? It's Dana.
Yes, we hear you.
I can send it to Julie. She had two separate emails registered, so I guess I'll send it to both.
okay. Julie Womack. is who I'm
Okay,
talking about.
try it.
Sometimes I don't find it either, and I forget what to look under. I think we're going to have to work on what words we use as we send out these links.
Yeah, this is Anna Albee. I kind of had to go back to my email too. Is there a way when you set up the confirmation and there's that button that says like add to calendar to make that function include the link?
Yes, it should be included. That mine was like that.
Mine wasn't, weirdly enough, but
Doesn't
Okay.
say see notes. Sometimes, yeah, on the calendar you scroll down and mine says see notes, and then that's where all of it is. But I don't know.
Mine says add to calendar, add to Google, add to Yahoo.
Yeah.
yeah.
And then it kind of throws everything in there on the note end of things.
But you know what it doesn't do? It doesn't have the words Cincinnati Moms Demand Action. You know, it has it as a link, so there's no spaces in between. So that might keep people from being able to find it when they when they do in the search bar. So we'll take a look at that. I hope that's not why our meetings have been, a little lower in attendance lately. We'll give it a few more minutes.
There's Julie.
Hello.
Donna, I'm going to sign out and sign back in under my own name link because I can't see the polls logged in this way.
Okay.
So I'll be right back.
All right, we're going to start in 1 minute, everybody. Hi, for those of you who have just signed in, please get yourself a pencil and paper.
A pencil and paper for the contest?
That's right.
I'm following.
And we are going to start. We've got our legislative leads. Welcome to Cincinnati Moms Demand Action meeting, everybody. We have a monthly meeting, and this time we're going to have a little fun and play a little trivia, have some prizes. And but before that, we're going to start off with a legislative update. Right now, as you know, we're in what's called lame duck, and that is when in between whoever lost and whoever won in the legislative arena. We'll talk about what happens at lame duck, right? You know, in our trivia game, actually. But is it Heather or Julie who will be updating us, our legislative leads?
Heather, do you have a good? I'm sorry, I've had a really long day, so I'm not very prepared here. I mean, I can riff, but
we can tag team maybe. Yeah, that sounds good. I figured our update would be in the quiz, but let's see. Without giving away
Heather,
any
it will be
answers.
It will be in the quiz as well. So do what you want, and then do the rest later.
Okay. Well, without giving away any quiz answers, I can just say that there's a lot going on in lame duck. At the end of this session, the slate clears, so there's a massive rush to push through some things that we need to take action on. So we're if your email boxes have been filled with emails from Lisa, our state lead, and from Julie and from myself, we're sorry. It's not our fault. Just trying to keep you informed of what's going on, and this is when we really need a lot of help. So this week particularly, we have stand your ground both in the House and the Senate that we need to take action on. There's several different ways to do that. Julie, correct me if I'm wrong. So we have Senate Bill 383, which is stand your ground in the Senate. It is passed committee. We expect that it may go up for a full Senate vote on Thursday. So call your Ohio senator, and you can also call Governor DeWine and encourage him to veto this should this pass and head to his desk. We're also asking that people email all their friends, any friends who might be interested in making the call themselves, to please do that as well. And then it's got a companion bill in the House, so these things are moving in tandem at breakneck speed. So we have the companion bill in the House, which is in committee, but we believe it has a hearing and may be voted out of committee tomorrow. So you can also call your state representatives and tell them what a terrible idea this is. There's lots of information on the Everytown website. If you want to arm yourself with a few facts before you pick the phone up. Another great thing to spread is to text Ohio to 64433, and that will put you directly through, correct me if I'm wrong, Julie, I think that sends you directly to DeWine.
I believe so, yes.
Yes.
Can I ask a question, please? I'm not familiar with these bills at all. What's wrong with the bills? I'm not.
Right. So we're going to address that in our quiz a little bit. There's a lot of misperception, I think, about the stand your ground bill. Some people think that means that they couldn't defend themselves in a situation in their own home, or anyway, that I don't want to give too much away on the quiz, but this version of the bill that they're trying to push through, it would make Ohioans less safe. And we can definitely answer more questions about that when the quiz questions come up. But if I say too much more, I might give the answer away. So
that's okay if you give the answer away, but we will address it. It is one of the quiz questions. So
yes, two of them I think address that specifically. So,
so glad you asked that, David. We do have a lot of questions about who we are and what we do, and some current things going on as well. So without further ado, we've got people still coming in. I think we're going to go ahead, and does anyone else, the leads, want to say a few words before we start? Yeah? Okay. You might want to just mute yourselves while we start the game. And so I can share my screen.
Go and mute yourself.
So I just want to start off real briefly by saying a few things about what we did last year. As I went through all of my meeting notes with all of you, and I was just amazed at the many ways that we did connect, even though we were unable to connect. So we heard from Supersedes, an organization that helps students know their rights in the legal system. We showcased a photographic art exhibit by children who have been affected by gun violence. We played legislative bingo, having fun while taking important step-by-step approaches to activism. We figured out how to meet in Zoom meetings. We learned the value of writing letters to the editor, and we wrote them. We learned how things work in the Ohio State House. We heard from the head of the Cincinnati Art Association about the healing experience of art, and we honored our survivors, learning about their art. Jamie Gutenberg's dancing, Margaret Long's hands-on crafting, and survivors all over the country who are creating healing gardens. We learned from experts how to use social media to spread our message. We wore orange proudly and decorated our homes, cars, and colored our hair to draw attention to the epidemic of gun violence in America. And we flooded social media with it all. We welcomed elected officials and gun sense candidates to our meeting, and we tabled at community events in West End, Millvale, and Evanston and Carthage, where gun violence is rampant. We made connections with people working in those neighborhoods. We obtained $40,000 worth of grants from Everytown for Gun Safety, our parent organization, for our community partners. We were a sponsor at the virtual Festival of Faith. We learned about the staggering statistics of suicide by gun, especially during a pandemic. We heard survivor stories and learned about the national programs available to our survivors. We dropped gun sense candidates literature all over town. We phone banked in the daytime and nighttime. We wrote postcards to voters and called our legislators. We connected Cincinnati's City Council and its police department to Everytown for Gun Safety, who shared Everytown's solutions to gun violence. So, give yourselves a pat on the back if you were any part of that, and if you're part of our group, you were a part of that. So, okay, let's start our fun trivia game. Raise your hand if you're not quite ready. All right, good. So, number one, there's 15 questions, by the way. Number one, the prominent statement on the National Moms Demand Action website is A, not one more, B, together we will end gun violence, C, take action today, or D, a chapter in every state. And don't shout it out or anything in case you're not on mute. Just write down A, B, C, or D. And then keep your score, because I'm going to tell you the answer after every question, okay? And the answer is B. Together, we will end violence, gun violence. So while all of those statements are so important and true, the prominent one is together we will end gun violence. And the next prominent button, if you've ever taken a look at that site, is take action now. So, because that's what we do. Question number 2. Shannon Watts, the founder of Moms Demand Action, was formerly A, high school physics teacher, B, wedding planner, C, airline pilot, or D, stay-at-home mother of 5. And the answer is D, stay-at-home mother of 5. So if you're new to the movement, you may not know that Shannon started this group from a Facebook page while raising her 5 kids at home. And she was formerly communications executive director. Number 3. This year's Moms Demand Action hosted a rally to release the first round of A, Moms Demand Action gun sense candidates, B, National Survivor Network volunteers, C, rural communities with new chapters, or D, new community partners. All right. right, the answer is, while it's true that we are seeking to reach out to survivors constantly and start rural chapters and work with as many community partners as we can, in 2020, Moms Demand Action placed an emphasis on electing gun sense candidates, people who have gun sense in mind. All right, number 4. What Southwest Ohio gun sense candidate did Moms Demand Action help re-elect? A, Representative Phil Robinson. B, Jessica Miranda. C, Nan Whaley. Or D, Representative Casey Weinstein. And the answer is Jessica Miranda. And at this point, I wonder if Michelle wants to talk a little bit about that.
Okay, let's see. Am I up? Yeah, I'm unmuted. So actually, when you look at the Gun Sense Distinction Program, just to put it in perspective, even by state, we had over 3,000 Gun Sense Distinction candidates this year that won or was awarded that status, Gun Sense. And we had about, I think Rebecca's on here, about 75 candidates that achieved that status in Ohio. And when you break it down, of course, we had priority candidates where, it was critical seats to either flip or protect. Of course, we wanted all of them to win. But there were 3 seats that we marked as re-election or protection. We wanted to protect their seat, and they were in a re-election campaign, so we did not want them to lose that seat. And one of them was Jessica Miranda. We also had Casey Weinstein and Phil Robinson. So all 3 of those that we were hoping to protect, and they worked very hard themselves on their campaign with so many others, they were protected. And also, just to put in perspective, in Gun Sense candidates, when you look at over 3,000 in the nation, 100 of them were actually Moms Demand Action candidates, and 43 won their races across the nation. 2 of them won congressional races. They're in the House of Representatives, Lucy McBath, and then a Congresswoman Marie Newman in Illinois. So it just gives you a little bit, and of course we had Paul Ryan here in Ohio win as a congressional candidate. So, but as far as moms, we also had a Moms Demand Action member run for office here in Ohio, and she was actually able to flip her seat, and that was Monique Smith. So it just gives you a little idea, number-wise, Moms Demand Action members versus total numbers. And we also had, in Rebecca, we talked about this the other day. We had our, I believe for Ohio, it was the very first Gun Sense candidate, because we are nonpartisan, who came from is part of the Republican Party. She actually won her seat in a recount. She was reelected, and that was Stephanie Coonsey. Okay, so that representative was the first Republican Gun Sense candidate. Again, we want all candidates to achieve this distinction status. This is big news. And Rebecca reminded us the other day, it's not only big news for Ohio, this is big news nationally, because, we want, like I said, we want all candidates to be able to run on this issue and support common sense solutions to end gun violence. So that's a little bit about what happened in a nutshell.
All right. Very cool. Question number 5. In August 2020, the New York Attorney General filed a lawsuit seeking to A, rebuild New York's background check system, B, ban assault weapons in New York, C, dissolve the nonprofit status of the National Rifle Association, or D, ban stop and frisk policies. And the answer is
Fuck everybody.
C. dissolve the nonprofit status of the National Rifle Association. So the NRA has strayed from its core purpose to serve outdoorsmen and hunters. Major investigations and lawsuits have uncovered extortion, corruption, and even a failed coup attempt. Let's go on to number 6. Stand Your Ground, SB 383 in Ohio, which passed out of committee and will be voted on by the full Senate on Thursday. Let's see if this is still right. I'll ask Julie or Heather to talk about that. Anyway, let's assume that it's going to be this Thursday. Would allow Ohioans to defend themselves with lethal force in their own home. That's A. B. Defend themselves with lethal force if they were attacked and had no means of retreat. And C. Legally kill someone who they think might harm them in a public space. Give you a few minutes to look over that again.
Yeah.
Not a few minutes.
That's right. It's probably B.
And the answer is C. Legally kill someone who they think might harm them in a public space. And at this point, I will let Julie or Heather speak to that.
I'll speak because I threw Heather under the bus earlier. So the Stand Your Ground bill, which the question is, the difference between normally in self-defense, if you can safely leave the scene, then normally under Ohio law, which has been the law for a very, very long time, there's a duty to retreat. Not in your home, and not if you're trapped in your car, but if you have an ability to leave, for example, there's cases where somebody has an altercation outside someone's house, person is standing in the doorway, you could literally close your door and go inside your house to avoid the altercation. This bill would strip that. They would say, no, if something's happening, you can just take out your gun and shoot. So it's basically taking away the duty to retreat when you can safely retreat. If you're in a situation where you cannot safely retreat, you can always have the right to use deadly force. But this bill and some of the companion bills have so many problems because it's taking away a duty to retreat when you could do that. It's also minimizing the seriousness of the injury you have to be facing. Basically, what we're calling this bill is shoot people who make you nervous. So there's also a very, very I'm sorry, my brain is not working today. This type of bill also makes it is much more dangerous for people of color, just because people tend to perceive them as a threat more easily. So you're in a public place, you suddenly feel threatened by someone, and it basically is allowing people to shoot to time where everything that they think that they want to ram through just gets shoved in December because people aren't watching, and some of these legislators are not coming back. They've lost election or they're retiring, so it's just a time to watch because there's just not only gun violence bill or gun related bills, but there's just some really extreme legislation. So it's a good time to pay attention.
Thank you. All right, number 11. What's the best way to contact our legislators? A, a phone call, B, an email, C, snail mail, or D, camp out at their home? And the answer is a phone call.
But they're saying all these things to give you ideals.
Number 12. Once you submit testimony on a bill, it, A, is seen by all the committee members, B, lets the legislators know that the public is aware of the bill, C, must be resubmitted when there is a hearing in another committee or branch of the legislative body, or D, all of the above. And the answer is all of the above. Aren't you glad you just listened to Julie a moment ago? Number 13. Ohio votes about 45% Democrat versus 55% Republican. What percent of seats do Democrats hold in U.S. Congress and the Ohio State House? Letter A is the same as the votes. B, 25% in U.S. Congress and 36% in the Ohio State House. Or C, 35% in U.S. Congress and 38% in the Ohio State House.
That's the same.
And the answer is 25% in the U.S. Congress and 36% in the Ohio State House.
That's not right.
Called
Not-
gerrymandering.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that. I'm going to let you talk to that in just a minute, Julie. Number 14. The term for the practice of dividing or arranging a territorial unit into election districts in a way that gives one political party an unfair advantage in elections is A, filibustering, B, gerrymandering, C, reapportionment, or D, censuring. And the answer is, tell us about gerrymandering.
Gerrymandering. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump the gun there on that one.
You're cool?
I shouldn't say jump the gun in. That's the word. I'm so sorry. Gerrymandering is basically how districts are drawn, and the party who's in charge every time we have a redrawing of districts, which is every 10 years, which is going to be this year, it gets to set the districts, so congressional district, state level seats. And what they do is they draw districts that are better for their party. So that is why you will see some crazy districts like Jim Jordan, who's a congressman. His district is shaped like a duck. There are districts that stretch almost from like the west side of the state down to like the south part of the state. They just try to incorporate neighborhoods with more of their voters. And so what that does, though, is it makes it almost impossible for some people to be elected out of a district. What a lot of people say is that, in a democracy, the voters pick their representatives, but in gerrymandering, the representatives pick their voters because they're picking the people that they know are going to elect the people that they want in that office. And so Ohio is very gerrymandered, and it's heavily gerrymandered for Republicans, which is why you see, even though we vote close to 50-50, we only have 25% of the federal representatives and only 36% at the state house. We have Republicans hold a supermajority at the state house, which is clearly not democracy in a 50-50 vote.
Tell us again what a supermajority is, Julie.
A supermajority means they have enough votes to be able. I'm sorry, my dog is near the door. They have enough votes to basically override a veto if they get all the members to vote for it. Sorry, we're 2 seats shy of breaking the supermajority, and we did not. We were hoping to do that this last election, but basically it means they can push through anything they want, and really the minority party has no control over that.
So the governor, the House, and the Senate in the state, they are all held by a certain party.
Yes. So the Republicans are a supermajority, and they have enough votes to basically do whatever they want to do, and the Democrats really have no means to stop them by voting.
The last question is 15. Which of the following bills has not been introduced in the legislature? A bill to reduce training requirements to carry a weapon in a school building. A bill allowing guns in bars. A bill permitting guns to be carried on college campuses. Or a buyback program for citizens wanting to turn in assault rifles. I'll give you a minute for that one. Okay, here comes the answer, folks. It's D, a buyback program for citizens wanting to turn in assault rifles. So I'm going to go back to that. These other bills have been introduced. Guns in bars, reduced training requirements to carry a weapon in a school building, and permitting guns to be carried on college campuses. That was it. Good job, everybody. And I'm going to have to get some. Michelle, can you help me count people who raise their hand to say they got all 15 right? Raise your hand if you got all 15 right. Just
Okay, wait. I've got to get another view here.
keep your hands up there, folks. I got them all right because I wrote them.
We got it.
You can raise your hands with the reaction button also.
Yep.
That's true. We could be high tech and do it that way.
Once you raise your hands.
Unmute yourselves, guys, so we can hear you. It's time to have a little conversation. What do you see, Michelle?
Oh, why'd you go back there?
Okay, so you know what? I'm just screen. I'm viewing, but I only see 6 of you. Wait a minute. Here we go. I believe I saw 3. Did you see 3? Let's see. Raise them again real quick. I think it was. Let's see. All right. I'm counting you, Donna. 1. Wait a minute. 2. All right.
For some people, we can't see, can we?
3. Yeah, I don't see unless are they putting hands up in there and by the participant. Okay, I still see 3.
Maybe people should put in the chat how many.
I saw Donna.
Put your name in the chat box, folks, if you.
Yeah, that could be better. Yeah. How many? Should we all put in there how many we got right? Or you want to go one?
Well, I still don't know if anyone got them all right. Do we?
I saw 3. But
in the chat box, people. There we go. Good. Thank you, David.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go, Anna. Thank you.
Okay. There's. Yeah. Some of them were leads, so we want to go with.
Where you want?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe they were all leads. Yeah.
You want?
I count
11.
There's 11. All right, good. Anybody with
Linda?
There's a 13, 11. Any 12s out there? 10.
I'll raise the kids.
13 is a good score.
Again.
It is. Yep.
This is a good score. Did anyone else get 13?
Like,
Or did anybody get 14? Right? Is that what you just asked? So 13 could be the.
13 could be the winning number if you don't get your name in the chat box.
Yeah, it looks like it. I'd say 13.
Congratulations, Linda Overholt.
Yes.
Yay!
There we go.
All right. What you have won.
Oh.
If you can see this, it's a beautiful, big old carry bag. It says "We Can End Gun Violence" in the latest logo for our Wear Orange campaign.
Give her some treat.
And I know where you live, Linda, so I'll be driving that out to you tomorrow.
Okay. I won't be home, but.
Hey, I want you to stick around. We've got just a few more things, and then after that, the leads will stay on for a few more minutes after the meeting ends if anyone has questions about anything, or if you just want to sit and talk. So I did have tiebreakers in case we did have more than 1 or 2 winners. I don't need them, but let's just go through this. Our outreach lead, Jill Bowman, has made a connection with the food bank.
Certificates and IDs for people. They help them with their budget. They help them with housing. They help them with counseling. They help them with clothing, getting clothing for jobs. I mean, they just do a ton of work. So this was certainly a win-win organization to pick as our virtual food drive.
And so Jill worked out with the free store our own link. And if you click on the link that I'm putting here in the chat box, and I'll also give you a follow-up email with this link, you have the opportunity to donate $5, and you can multiply that $5 donations. Once you click on it, you'll see you can multiply it and give as much as you really want. But it's nice because it will say it's from our group, and that'll help us make connections as well. So let's just go through this. I had 2 more little questions for you because I found this very interesting when I went to find out more about the food bank as well. Cincinnati Free Store Food Bank provides meals to A, 16 Ohio counties surrounding Cincinnati, B, the downtown Cincinnati area, 15-mile radius, C, 20 counties in Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky, and D, Hamilton County. And the answer is, imagine that, 20 counties in Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana. Wow. All right, so there you go, folks. Please consider making a donation to the food bank on behalf of Moms Demand Action. And number 17, and the final one, if you just for the fun of it, when talking to your friend about how to become a Moms Demand Action supporter, tell her A, text ready to 64433. B, enter her email at momsdemandaction.org/act. Come to the next meeting, or any of the above.
We should amend that to enter her or his email.
We should.
In honor of David, who's brave enough to be here with us tonight.
Yes.
Yes, his or her.
Indeed. Thank you. So I was listening to, in closing, if anyone else wants to say anything before this, go ahead. I'll pause a minute. So in closing, I just wanted to say the other day I was watching a TV show about Ken Burns, the documentary producer who does a lot of things on public radio and public TV. And they were asking him, what is his next job? And he came up with something that was so inspiring to me, I wanted to repeat it tonight. And he said, it's my job to be courageous. And I thought, man, that nails it. That's going to be my mantra in 2021, because the more courageous we are, I just think the better off the world's going to be. And we're going to be slapped down, we're going to be hit down, we're going to be pushed back. But that's not for us to deal with. It's just our job to be courageous. So thanks to everybody for coming tonight. Thanks for staying with us and staying the course. And enjoy your evening. Have a happy holiday. And again, good night. And please come back to our next meeting and stay for a little bit longer if you'd like to chat.
I had some questions about the bills you guys were talking about what's so bad about those bills. I'm totally unfamiliar with them. I have no clue really what they're about other than what she just said, which wasn't very, it didn't really explain it.
Okay.
Essentially, David, and people can certainly speak to this also, is the GOP legislators essentially want to get rid of any rules or regulation concerning guns. They want to reduce the age that people can purchase guns. They want to reduce or eliminate training needed. You know, when people buy a gun now, they're required to, if they're doing a concealed carry, they have to have an 8-hour course to learn about some of the safety aspects of guns, and they want to get rid of that. They want to authorize people to carry guns in demonstrations and feel free to shoot someone if they make them feel uncomfortable.
Excuse me. I think I misunderstood what you just said.
No, you didn't.
No, what did you say?
What they're going to be proposing is you can carry a gun in a demonstration, like what is happening, you know, throughout the country.
Okay.
And you won't be penalized if you shoot somebody there. You can say they made you feared for your life or you were uncomfortable with them.
Jill, is that stand your ground you're referring to there?
I think it's the other. What is that one that Doug Rogers talks about that they've got all? They tried to make it sound like you couldn't pass on an antique gun to, like an uncle couldn't give an antique gun to a nephew, but they put all kinds of crazy wacko stuff in that bill, like you can shoot at a demonstration type thing. And I forget the number of it, but they're just trying, those legislators which answer to the gun lobby as opposed to evidence-based research data that proves what works, like background checks work, closing the gun show loophole. You know, all guns need, when you buy a gun through a licensed dealer, it's registered, the word I want to use.
Could I answer some of the questions?
Yes, please do.
David, I'm a competitive shooter. a match director, NRA member, gun collector, and I've been actively involved with moms. And what's been happening, and what you have to understand is that with the moms group, a lot of what goes on is people that don't own guns. So sometimes they don't know the terminology that you and I would understand. But with the Stand Your Ground, the bill that's being proposed right now is, as you know, in Ohio, if you can retreat and back away from a gun situation, then you are required to do so. But this new law that goes in takes that away and says you don't have to retreat. Somebody just has to make you feel uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable is the uncomfortable is the word they use.
I believe it's that you have a reasonable belief of physical harm, so not serious harm or death, but just it's reducing the level at which.
I guess my question would be, what justifies that? I mean, if my wife like has a firm belief that she's going to be raped, but she can retreat, or somebody's wife, and they have an option to stop it or run and then get raped anyway. I mean, like, is that something you really want to be is that something you really want to be 100% against? And I understand it has a lot to do with probably the wording of it. I haven't read it. I probably should have. I didn't even know about it until just now. But I mean, I think maybe if I don't want to speak incorrectly here. I think if you're focusing on your definition of what, whatever terminology they use is, rather than relying on the courts to determine that, if somebody walks up and says boo and gets shot in the face, yeah, there's a clear problem there. Like 100%. We'll say there's a clear problem there. If somebody, some man threatens my wife to the point that she feels there is a physical threat, do we expect my wife to try to run if she was to have a firearm? I'm using
David,
my wife as an example.
pop your email in the chat, and we'll send you some information on the bill as it's written in Ohio.
All right, we'll do.
David, actually Ohio already has, whether it's your wife or myself or you, we already have a self-defense law, the Castle Doctrine, and when you look at that version of the Castle Doctrine, it actually does have it's not a clause, but the meaning of it says, if you feel your life is in imminent danger, you absolutely have a right to. What they're asking, they're like expanding it, okay? But we already have technically what they really what they believe in. If your life, it's your home or you're in your car, but if you feel your life is in imminent danger anywhere, okay, yes, you have a right to defend yourself. So really, there's, the Castle Doctrine has worked so well, really, in Ohio and probably other states that have self-defense laws, but Stand Your Ground does go further on that interpretation, and that is just a phrase, anyone that maybe makes you nervous. It's a judgment call, there's no doubt about it. And if you do go to the courts, right, Betsy, if you can prove if your life was in imminent danger, then you do have the right already under Ohio law to defend your life. Right. And if it even means, deadly force. Okay.
But legally, what this new law does is it takes away, a lawyer could go in and say, well, yeah, he could have left, but he thought his life was in danger, and rather than leaving, he decided to shoot the person.
Of course, the person who's shot many times is dead and can't give the other side of the story.
Right. This puts the burden, right, Betsy, and everyone onto the prosecution. And the only witness that can probably, right, Jill, help him understand what happened is usually dead.
Right. David, another thing, research has shown that states that have stand your ground have an increase in homicides rather than a decrease. It really doesn't.
Based on that, though, what is the if there's an increase in homicides, what is the crime level? You know, when there's a stand your ground law, does the crime level reduce? Does it go up?
They're talking.
Do you understand my
Not
question?
necessarily.
I mean, if you know, because I know I did read an article, actually two of them, because I researched it, and when Ohio got concealed carry, violent crimes actually went down by almost 50% overnight. It said. I'm only asking because like.
Do you know what? If you go on Everytown's website.
Yes, ma'am.
Everytown.org. They have a lot, or everytownresearch.org.
Yes, ma'am.
They have a lot of data there that you can look at.
All right. I'll do that.
And they make it really easy to understand.
Okay. I'll definitely look at that.
Yeah.
David, how did you find us? And we're glad you're here. Thank you.
My son was murdered last year in Amelia in a double homicide, and then
oh goodness,
there's just really nobody to talk to. You know, he's 20 years old, and the law says that, you know, my son is a real, you know, he's a really good, like a great shooter. I mean, like great to the point that if he would have, you know, he died 12 days before his 21st birthday. If the law didn't say that 20-year-olds are old enough to go to war but can't carry a firearm, he would have not only saved his own life, but his friend was also murdered at the time. So,
you know, Moms also has a survivor network,
right,
where you can connect with other survivors.
I just
should probably give him Jackie's comfort.
You can get information. That's a good point, Joe. You can get that information a little bit about, or a lot about, what the Survivor Engagement Network is if you just text the word, is it honor or survivor, to 644. And you can go on the national website also, you know, everytown.org or momsdemandaction.org, and there is some information there. But if you really even want to talk to somebody, they'll connect with you.
All right, thank you.
Like Jill said, yeah.
Moments that survive is another thing you can Google and look at, and those are stories of incidents like yours, unfortunate stories.
We have been in this movement for 8 years, David, and we every time we hear of just one incident like this, our hearts just cry, and we're so very sad to hear about your story. I'm so glad that you joined us tonight, and hope that you come back.
Oh, I will.
David, did you say you were from Amelia?
No, Forest Park. That's where my son was murdered at, was in Amelia. But I mean, with 400 million firearms, you know, my father told me growing up that, you know, laws were created. How do you say it? Good men don't need laws and bad men don't follow laws. I guess the thought behind that is that criminals wouldn't be criminals if they followed laws. So how do we, with 400 million guns, at least from where I read about in the United States, you know, people are either good or evil. If you know, I'm not going to, just like what you mentioned about the stand your ground law. I think if somebody carries a firearm, whether that's legal or illegally, they have their intent. I'm sure that maybe they draw a line. Sorry, that's my phone ringing. I don't like the idea. I don't like the idea.
The United States has more guns than other developed countries, and we have, I forget, is it 25% more?
Right.
More deaths by guns than other countries.
Is that death by guns or murder by guns?
I think that includes suicide too, right?
It does include suicide and unintentional deaths.
And unintentional deaths, right.
Oh, okay.
But right now,
and if you try to negate laws saying they don't help, why have speed limits? Why have laws against burglary? And I mean, you've got a certain percentage that's not going to follow the law, no matter what. That
wasn't what I was implying.
Well,
that all law should be negated, but I think it's just dangerous if we're on, you know, something like a threat is subjective. You know, it's what may not be a threat to me may be a deadly threat to you. The problem isn't that we're subjective about that threat. The problem is that there's a threat at all. Does that make sense? There's no reason for a person to be threatening either one of us. I'm going to do more research into it and see like what happens with the gun laws, and you know, whether more guns equals less crime equals, or less guns equal more crime. I'm interested about all of it. I find it. I don't want to sit.
Yeah, Everytown research
for prohibited buyers to get guns. And when you were saying we have what 400, 500 million guns, and like Jill was saying, if guns made us safer, we should be the safest nation in the world, right? But overall, if you look at that number, 40% were probably obtained, and this is a rough estimate, from a private dealer or an unlicensed dealer that does not require background checks. And we know background checks works because it's already prohibited 3 to 4 million, I think it is, buyers that should not have guns. They were already prohibited from getting it. So our goal is to tighten up the dangerous loopholes. And that's why it even allows domestic abusers to get guns. And that's why our three main legislation that we...
If a domestic abuser can get a gun, isn't the problem that the domestic abuser's not in jail? Not so much that he can get a gun. I mean, if somebody is so dangerous, why are we letting these people out of jail? I mean, like my son's...
Unfortunately, domestic abuse laws aren't very strict.
Ohio has two major loopholes, and we're trying to mirror the federal law, so that will help empower our law enforcement to be able to take action. Yeah, you're right. That it's uneven. Some, you know, from
just listening.
But
just listening to this, it's dangerous. I mean, like I don't know a lot about this, but I do know a few things. I know I have the right to religion. I have the right to freedom of speech. If I choose to, I have the right to keep and bear arms. Now we start dabbling in, well, we need to be licensed, or I need to say when you can. When does that carry over to I need to say when you can have a Zoom meeting about whatever, about this, or you need to have a license in order to be able to talk in public. And
well, I mean, you have a
hold on, one more second. The only reason I'm saying this is because one can make a great argument that speech is far deadlier than any firearm, and one way to look at it's Hitler. His speech killed millions of people. Yes, firearms did it, but if they only had sticks and stones, those people would have died from sticks and stones. A lot of them died from gas that was legal at the time.
I think, David, we're arguing that everyone has a right to life first and foremost.
Right.
Before others have a right to, have guns. We should all have a right to live our life without the fear of just some random person on the street pulling out a gun and shooting us because they thought we were threatening. So I think if we go upstream to your situation, if we could have somehow prevented that other person from having a gun and being there to shoot your son, that is what our goal is. Our goal is to make it harder for anyone to get a gun,
but you could
situations don't even happen.
Everything we do, David, is based on research and data that shows it saves lives.
But the genie's out of the bottle.
So we're going to support anything. We're going to support any regulation that saves lives, and we're going to oppose any gun legislation that we know does not decrease gun violence or save lives. So that's the whole premise of what we operate on. And again, you're right. We're not going to save them all, but boy, if we can save one, we truly feel we have the responsibility to do so in any way that we can legislatively.
On that topic, real quick, even if you took the gun away from the man that murdered my son, nothing, if you want to kill him with a knife, was to stop him. But if it only saves one life, a law that says 20-year-olds that are 12 days from their birthday can't carry a firearm is what killed my son. My son should have been able to be armed. He was a grown man. And the law that says that 20-year-olds that can go fight for our freedom, they have to pay taxes that can go to jail couldn't carry a firearm to protect himself. And he would have saved not only his own life, who he didn't want to hurt anybody, he didn't have no ill will, could have saved his friend's life that was murdered with him. And you can look it up. He was killed at the same apartment complex Deputy Brewer was. The only person that would have died is the person with ill will. 12 days.
I have a question, David.
Yes,
was your son's incident, was it a surprise type thing? Did the shooter?
Yeah, well, from what we know, at first
because
they tried
usually it's the element of surprise that makes someone with a gun not able to use it.
My son from concealed until shot on target was 1.09 seconds. He was super fast. That's like people that are twice his age with years and years of practice. I'm sure the NHRA lady, is she still here? I can't see.
He's here.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's super fast, and she can tell you that. So, you know, and I understand.
But even police officers that are highly trained.
But police officers aren't really highly trained. I have a brother that's a police officer, and
depends on the department.
Yeah, it may. I don't know. I was only curious, but you're not gonna. The problem, you know, what she said, if we could take that gun, if you would remove the gun from the situation, there's still a likelihood my son would have died.
And there's a likelihood he would have survived because it's a lot harder to kill someone with a knife than a gun.
Well, we don't know, though, because he's dead, because there was a gun there.
I know, and we don't want guns to be in situations like that.
But there's 400 million guns in the country. How do we take those? How do we get rid of those guns? And then you have people that are so, you know, no pun intended, gung-ho about firearms because it's their right. Then if you say you can't, you know, well, we're going to take these firearms away. Then how long before they're saying, well, you know what, we don't want Muslims in the country. We're going to take your religion away, or we don't need Catholics here. How about we'll take that away?
David, I heard an analogy that helped me. Every amendment has limits. It's not unlimited. And, you know, just like with the free speech, you can't go in a theater and yell fire.
Ma'am,
with the second amendment or any amendment, I mean, most everybody has a right to buy an airplane ticket.
Well,
but what that person doesn't have the right to do is open the plane door during flight and harm others.
Right, just because you want to harm others. But to back up real quick on the analogy, you can go into I can go into a crowded theater and say, "Hey, everybody, I'm going to yell fire, don't do nothing," and scream fire, and there's nothing illegal about that.
Now, if you're yelling fire to
a call of action,
intimidate, or threaten or whatever,
the call of action,
you can't do that.
The call of action.
You actually can't. There's a whole Supreme Court case about that. You can't go into a crowded theater and scream fire to cause a panic.
Right. Hold on, ma'am. Hold on. Let me finish this real quick. That's not what I said. You said that yelling fire in a crowded theater is a limitation to your First Amendment rights, but it's not. I can go into a theater, crowded theater, and say, "Hey, everybody, there's 500 people. Hey, all 500 people, I'm going to yell fire. Do not move." Scream fire. If nobody moves, there's no limitation to my First Amendment. The limitation is the call to action. Yelling fire when nothing's happened and then people get trampled on the way out and sitting back and laugh about it. That's the limitation. You can't make a call to action like that. So I'm not sure that I agree with there's limits on a right. You know, God granted me my right to praise him. But when somebody says, well, Catholics are a little dangerous, I find it, we're dabbling in waters that, you know, could get dicey down the road. I mean, you look what's going on now with this COVID thing. You know, the Holocaust started with Jews not to be able to buy food and groceries from stores that were not owned by other Jews. Who decides where it stops? And that's my problem. I'm not saying you're wrong at all. I'm just saying, at what point do you say your wife has the ability? I mean, who makes those decisions? Like I said, for somebody that may not be intimidating to me at all, my wife's 100 pounds. Does she got to turn around and run away? Or somebody else's wife that carries? My wife don't have a firearm. We don't even own firearms. But if my wife did carry a firearm and somebody was intimidating her in a dark alley, but that she can turn around and run away, now does she got to run away? Or
no.
But why?
She doesn't have to. No, the cancel doctrine doesn't say, you know.
But earlier I heard
that you have to run away.
I know that.
It's just that if the situation is imminent danger to your life. No, she absolutely does not have to.
But the lady said earlier, you have a duty. You wanted to have a duty to retreat.
But
if you can safely retreat.
If you can
Right.
say, if you can de-escalate, right, Joe, if you can safely walk away,
right.
But it's not a law that says you have to run away if you're 100 pounds and your attacker is 200 pounds and is, pointing a gun at your face. It does not say.
So it's still
the Cancel doctrine does not mean that you must run away.
So it's still so it's still subjective then, and by shutting that door, we are now limiting somebody what they can do. Right?
It doesn't shut the door.
No, it actually allows them to save their life if they feel they're in imminent danger.
Okay. But if the person, but who decides? I guess I should have just asked it a different way because I know that sounded terrible. I'm not against you all. I'm wanting to gain a better knowledge of all this. I find
you're asking questions. Yeah.
I find it fascinating that I would never tell somebody they can't do something. My rule is you don't harm me. I'm not going to bother you. That's my rule to life. I treat everybody equally.
Well, that's kind of what we all need to do.
Right, I agree with that.
Yeah, that's all we want.
But I don't know how many people still here. If you're not somewhere to decide to see what happens, who decides how valuable my life is at that moment? The same people that decided how valuable my son's life was? A law that says 20-year-old men, my son was 12 days. 12 days before being able to legally carry a pistol in Ohio. My son carried a pistol all the time illegally. Not because he wanted to harm anybody. Because he wanted to be safe. He wanted to be safe. That was it. Had no intent of ever harming on nobody. My son would never harmed a fly. But a law that said 20-year-olds, all 20-year-olds, a blanket statement, can't carry firearms, is what killed my son. When you distill it down to its smallest factor, that's what killed my son. Because that person who had evil intent, that wanted to kill my son was there by chance. Purely bad luck. So
David, I just want to say that we do have to limit our time here tonight, but
just think about all I'm saying is think about the unintended consequences. Because who do I point at to say you're responsible for the law that killed my kid?
You point to the law.
The person who killed your kid.
Well, I mean, the person who killed my kid, the person who killed my kid was going to do it regardless. He's evil.
I feel like I'm losing my mind because I've just gone around.
But somebody's got their TV on. But listen, David, again, thank you so much for all of these. Thank you for all of these questions. It's really made us think outside the box. We have someone question the things that you've done for us tonight, and it's been very helpful to have you.
I appreciate y'all. Like I'm not against you. I mean, I'm with you all. There needs to be a lot of reform.
We hear that.
I find it, what if the gun lovers get empowered and they say, you know what, you all can't have Zoom meetings no more.
Well, that's not going to happen because that's not the issue at hand.
No, I know that. I know that. I'm just saying.
We are going to have to close this meeting.
The unintended consequences could be worse than what people think. Think about everything you do because the unintended consequences
check out the
will
research.
hurt people. I will. Definitely
David,
will.
Will you let us send you some material so that we can let you
will do.
study and then come back to our meetings again in January?
I definitely will. I definitely will.
Let us know your thoughts.
Thanks, David.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, they wanted me out. They didn't like it at all. Motherfuckers fucking me, I'll fuck you up. See, they don't know what they're talking about, people. Like, they go to Everytown for gun safety. That's their answer for everything. Go to Everytown for gun safety. They'll tell you they got all of it there. They know what's going on there.
Should have asked them if you could ask them questions in between now and January.
Yeah, I'm going to.
There was a way to contact them.
I got your phone, so you're gonna have to upload it, and then you should probably just. I got to edit it though. You have to download UCut so I can edit it.